Be live?
I don't know. We'll find out.
We never know until someone. We
So
never know until
chimes
someone
in.
does something.
Right. Will anyone chime in?
Yeah, we're gonna get chimers.
You're gonna get chimers? Are you sure?
We got Jack on the show. Big time.
We do
Jack.
have Jack in the show. I'm gonna
What's
do
up,
the
fellas?
old reliable way to check my phone to see if it's on.
I should tweet this link maybe. Let me see. I don't even know how I could do that.
Oh.
Would I just no? This is the guest link. I don't have the link. I tweet the guest link out. All of a sudden, mad people just start chiming in.
Oh,
Justin's
yep.
in the
I can
house.
hear everyone. I can hear everyone. We are live.
Who do you hear? Who's everyone?
Yeah, what?
Me, you. That's everyone.
Oh, I thought you meant like there were people talking in the ether.
No, the comments
about
have
us.
started.
The comments
Justin
have started.
Vidal. Thank you, my friend.
See,
Yo.
I'm looking on my phone and I cannot see the comments from my phone. So you're gonna have to keep me updated.
You couldn't just do it from your computer?
You know what? Right now, my apartment, as you can tell, I normally have a better background. My
Mhm.
apartment's kind of a little all over the place, so I didn't want to do the whole setup. So I didn't feel like doing the computer today.
So that's why it's all
Just
you
your
get the
face.
tight view.
Wait, are you guys not seeing it like that?
No, we are.
See
We're
that
seeing
one?
exactly what you're seeing.
Yeah. So all three of our faces are we're in the same size box.
Correct.
All right. So why are you ripping on my box?
I don't know. Just needed to.
Yeah, you seemed focused on it, so I wanted to bring that up.
Hold up, Marco. Are you wearing a Giants shirt?
I am not.
Oh, I thought you were because I
It could
see
pass for one though.
Jack has one on, and I was at my parents' recently, and I found all this old stuff that I had, and I got this Giant shirt. So I'm
We'll get
rocking
to that,
this thing.
Justin.
What did Justin say? I'm gonna be the annoying guy. What did this
He
one
said,
say?
how do you like the move so far?
Oh, so you could see it because you're on a
Yeah.
laptop.
Yeah.
Got you.
Oh wait, you know what? Oh, I got comments now. Boom! I'm all hooked up.
What on your phone?
Oh yeah, I just pushed the little comments tab. No big deal.
See, I haven't done it on the phone yet.
Anyway,
So
Let's
where
dive
did
in.
we leave off? Where did we leave off? Like
Where do we
week
leave
8
off?
last year?
we were
And
like
Died in
1-4.
frustration.
We were like 1-4. Things were looking good. Tony was looking
We
like
didn't
he was
run any
going to win
QB
Rookie of the
sneaks,
Year.
I think, at that point yet.
Tony was a front runner for Rookie of the Year. Joe Judge, everybody was on the train
Mm-hmm.
except me.
Here we go.
And Daniel Jones was healthy.
It was good times.
That was around the concussion.
The Rams are going nowhere. And, you know, Deshaun Watson was a Texan.
Still is.
I know, he still is.
Like technicalities, yeah, he still is. So, all right. So we'll start at the Joe Judge gets fired. Everyone gets fired. Patrick Graham leaves because he feels slighted. Goes to the Raiders. Whole new staff in. We'll start from there. Thoughts on the GM? Thoughts on the coach? New GM, new coach.
You take it, Will.
The truth of the matter is, unless there's something I don't know about, most of us pedestrians don't really know anything about the inner workings of these teams other than what the team's record is that the person comes from and what we hear about them. So Buffalo is a hot team right now. We hear good things about Joe Shane. He was kind of on the top of the list the whole time. We get him. I know nothing about him more than anybody else does, but based on the fact that he was part of a system that put together a good team, and he seems like people talk about him very highly in very high regards. I was happy we got him. Daboll, I don't know. I really don't know, honestly. We'll see what happens. We have to see how he is as a head coach. Anytime you come from a team that has a quarterback like Josh Allen, it's always, I always equate it to being secretariat's jockey. How much of it is the jockey and how much is you just riding the horse and you can't lose? So we'll see. But I think I would say cautiously optimistic. Jack?
I'm around the same feelings. It seems like the GM, Joe Shane, was the hottest or one of the hotter candidates on the market as general manager positions were going. So it looks like we got the top guy available. So whether he turns out to be great or not, we'll see, obviously.
Right.
But, it seems like we got our guy, we got the guy. So I can't not give that an A.
Right.
Head coach, I mean, once Joe Shane got hired, it was pretty evident that Dable was going to be the lead guy, and it made sense, And he was one of my like top 2 or 3 guys, head coaching wise. I just didn't know much about his personality and his leadership, which is always a concern for me with these hot offensive coordinators. But it seems like he may be that guy. Only time will tell as well. So I like the connection between the GM and the head coach. They'll be on the same page. So that's something we don't have to worry about. Coordinator-wise, I can't complain about Wink or Kafka. I think Wink was one of the better defensive coordinators on the market as well. The Ravens' defense has been pretty solid the past 4 or 5 years, barring injuries. And Kafka is said to be one of the hotter, offensive coordinator candidates that were out there. And he worked with Mahomes. He was the QB coach, and we'll see what happens. So I have no complaints on my end, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm basically going to parrot what you guys said. It's so difficult to find out who did what and who belonged what and what decisions were made when it's that high up. So it's like
you just sung a little bit. If you rewind that, I think you were like, "You." Did you hear that? You're like, it's so difficult.
Maybe a little bit.
It's so difficult to figure out who. That was
so
beautiful.
Yes.
Joe Shane's got you singing, man.
Singing the joy.
That's
but yeah,
great.
it's so difficult to know who did what, and even down to the coaches, what's being taught under him, and
on paper it looks good so far.
It's so hard. But yeah, on paper, the best thing that I'm happy about, both of them sound wrong.
Cool.
But what I'm most happy about is that they hired a GM and a coach at the same time, and they're lockstep. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing for me. They've made that mistake 3 times in the past 10 years, probably.
Yep.
And now that we've done the wrap up,
mm-hmm. The wrap up show
before the viewers are like, yeah, we knew all this. Free agency, draft. I have some very strong opinions. Me and Jack speak almost on a daily.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of strong opinions. I got things to say about Trayvon Walker. I got things to say about Charles Cross. I got things to say about everybody. But we got to talk free agency.
Free agency first.
I said.
Yeah, we'll go through your
checklist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Marco, and I think you kind of know this. Most people that follow me a little bit know. My off-season checklist. Sign a solid starting interior offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Draft an offensive tackle at 5 or 7. Not just because we need – well, I'll get to that in a second. Draft an edge defender within the first 2 rounds and draft another interior offensive lineman within the first, I'd say, 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. So Glowinski, while he was at the bottom of my acceptable interior offensive lineman list, he still fits the criteria. We know he's a little bit older. He's, I think, 30 years old.
Turning 30.
Turning 30. They gave him a 3-year deal. He's a good, solid, probably grades out to an above average guard. People have good things to say about him. He's on our squad. So that's check mark number 1. We also brought in Feliciano. When he's been healthy, he's been pretty effective. Can play, I think, all 3 positions in the inside, but hasn't always been healthy. Another guy getting a little older, but all reports seem to indicate that if he can stay on the field, he seems like he'll be a tough leader, knowledgeable type IOL with who will represent an upgrade from what we had last year. But so overall, not huge moves, as Jack will reiterate in a second. We wanted younger guys who are similar in play but 5 years younger, like Connor Williams or James Daniels. But it technically checks off box number 1 for me.
Yeah, it's about right. We've talked about this. I think they needed to get at least one offensive lineman in free agency that you were like, okay, he's a starting player in the NFL, no doubt about it. And Glowinski is. Do I want Glowinski to be my second or third best offensive lineman on my dream scenario team? No, probably not. He's probably around the fourth best offensive lineman that I'd like to have on my ideal dream offensive line. But he's a starting offensive lineman. He's like you said, slightly above average to an above average guard. Better in the run game, it seems, than pass blocking, but that's okay. I think I personally look more in the run blocking for the interior guys than I do the passing. I leave that to the tackles. The tackles can help out the guards with pass blocking. So hopefully if we land the right tackle in the draft, those two will be able to be in lockstep and help each other out.
Yeah. So going into free agency, I wasn't expecting much at all because we are in cap hell, and
that was I was going to say the same thing.
Slowly trying to dig their way out of it. But in reality, the 3 offensive linemen that they brought in are better than the ones that we have currently.
Who's your third?
Gono.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a lot under his belt. I don't know what he is. He's a giant question mark.
Literally.
But you're right. He has more upside than any of the guys that we have outside of Thomas.
And he's a kicker.
Yeah, and he kicks too. So yeah,
right?
He's fantastic.
It's Grant Gano, right? That's his name? Gal Gadot, wasn't that Wonder Woman? But Marco, what are you feeling? So ultimately, you're fairly.
So my expectations were in the crapper of free agency.
They just weren't very high, I think. It wasn't. That's why it's hard to grade this free agency period for the Giants because they didn't really have much room. You couldn't expect much. So I feel like since they were able to get a starting offensive lineman, and they just signed a tight end, which I'm not really thrilled about. They needed a veteran tight end. Don't get me wrong. I wanted a different one, but they got one. Backup quarterback, not the biggest deal, but you knew they were going to get one, and they got another offensive lineman. I don't think you could be too mad about what they did with what they had.
Yeah. I mean, it's bare minimum. By the way, unless it's one of your significant others, and I'm not going to get involved, there's some noise coming in from one of your TVs or radios or something.
Maybe it's one of my TVs.
Well, if it's not on mute, Jack, then you're not taking this very seriously, are you?
Well, I'm watching the Iona Gales on ESPN2 and the NIT.
And tell people why.
I work for that school, so
there you go.
I need to show that I actually care.
You need to show. We don't need to hear that you actually.
I thought you wanted to hear the game. Gotcha.
All right.
Mute.
I own a podcast, and you're not doing a good job right now. Sorry, I'm trying to do an Iona pun. Meanwhile, it's Marco's podcast. Marco.
There you go.
Marker, or whatever this is considered. So yeah. I mean, look, they got the lineman.
Wish he was younger. It's really the only thing.
I love his name. Jack won't remember this, but it reminds me of what was it, Glowworms, Marco? Remember Glowworms, the toy from like the late 80s, early 90s?
The actual pronunciation? Is it Glow?
It's not Glowinski?
It is? I don't.
What else could it be?
I think it's Glowinski.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
It sounds like something like a drunk person would say to someone who is wearing something really bright. Like, hey, listen here, Glowinski. All right, get the hell out of my bar. I don't know. It just came to my mind. Hello, all. That's from Post. That's from you. What's good, Marco? See, people like you, Marco. You're the popular one. You're the eye candy.
I've been.
It's the face. He's the face.
Look. By the way, is there really such thing as cap hell?
Yes.
Because
did
every year we
see what the Saints did?
What did the Saints do?
They were $70 million under the cap, and they freed up $80 million without getting rid of one single player.
So why didn't we do that? What happened to the $40 million?
Because it gets pushed. We are in a great spot next year with cap space. Great spot. Little dead money. There's like 80-ish million available. Like this was the get right year for the Giants from the front office standpoint to move on to future years.
So we're all pretty much like fine. We're like good. We're not great. We're good with Glowinski. We're good with Feliciano. We just got a tight end, Seal, right?
Ricky Seals-Jones.
I
wanted somebody else.
He's a very average tight end. I don't know how old he is. I'm sure you do, Jack.
I think he's about 30. I can look it up, though.
So we're going to grab a tight end in the draft. What do you got, Marco?
I think so.
My ideal candidate for a tight end is a big body, fast, agile, able make catches, probably tight end.
Oh, he's actually 27.
Wide receiver. Oh, younger than you thought.
Yeah, he is actually younger than I thought. I remember.
That's what I like. Like the one that went to Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, just like him. I wanted Max Williams from Arizona. I think he's also 27. He's one of the best run blocking tight ends in the league. He's kind of like the second tight end on Arizona, so they didn't really utilize him as a pass catcher. I think he was a first or second round pick out of Minnesota, and I was really looking at him as our guy to pair along with the draft tight end that we would get. Just because I value the run blocking. If we're going to go with the two tight ends this offseason, you need one of them to be able to block. And Max Williams was the guy, but also think he has receiver ability that no one's really tried to unlock for him. So that was my guy. I wanted him bad because he's just I thought he was very realistic price-wise for
right.
So I don't know.
And then what's going on now? So who else? So we brought those guys in. We bring anybody else that I can't think of?
Quarterback Tyrod
Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, Marco, I just feel like, I don't know. People are talking so much about Tyrod Taylor and the backup quarterback. We can't have what happened last year. If your quarterback goes down, you're no good and this and that. Dude, I don't know what it is. I don't care. If Daniel Jones plays well, the backup's never coming in.
Mm-hmm.
If the backup comes in, this team isn't going anywhere. It's not like we're the Packers, where you're going to find yourself 12-3, and then the quarterback goes down. You're saying, hey, if we have a good backup, maybe we can still win the Super Bowl. So to me, Tyrod Taylor is someone coming in and salvaging 2 or 3 games that Jake Fromm wouldn't have salvaged. All that doesn't do anything for anybody. All it does is ruin your draft capital to get your quarterback next year. Because if that happens and Jones gets benched or he gets hurt, we're bringing in a new quarterback next year anyway. So and people say, well, bringing in a quarterback for a quarterback competition is going to make Jones play better. You don't know that. Some guys respond to a pat in the back. Some guys respond to a kick in the ass. We don't know exactly how Jones would respond to that. So to me, I don't mean to be like a jackass, but there's so much talk that went into the backup quarterback situation, who it's going to be, and is he going to push Jones? And we can't have what happened last year. It doesn't really matter to me. This isn't a contender. If it goes bad with Jones this year, we're drafting a quarterback next year, almost 100% certainty. Joe Shane's second year, he's got some draft capital. So to me, the whole thing, well, unless you want to say, well, having someone like Taylor on the team, if Jones is gone next year and we get a rookie, it could be a good bridge quarterback, give him some lessons, let him work behind him for, I don't know, the off season or for a year or whatever the hell the situation is going to be. But I just feel like it was getting way too much talk.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you say, but this move is just one of those moves that's a football move. It's a GM move. It's not a move for the fans.
Right.
The GM, the new head coach and the GM, does not want to even go into the situation that the Giants did last year and just take that kind of backlash in year one. So they solidified it. That is off the table. Will not happen. Unfortunately, we just kind of have to accept it. I don't really view it as anything. If anything, I view it as next year, if we do draft a rookie quarterback, Tyrod Taylor is said to be a great veteran leader and a bridge quarterback to other young quarterbacks, a la he did it for Baker Mayfield, and he just did it for Justin Herbert 2 years ago. So That's thinking of a whole situation that doesn't even exist yet. But bringing in the backup quarterback it wasn't for the fans. It wasn't for the fans that are thinking, we might as well lose for the quarterback next year.
Right. No, I agree with that. I just don't know why fans were getting so. Then the fans should have been. I don't know why they cared so much who the hell the backup is. It's completely irrelevant this time next year, because it's either Jones because he proved himself, or it's a rookie that we're getting in the draft because Jones didn't prove himself. So the backup doesn't matter if you're a fan.
I will say the contract is not as big as it sounds. It came out as 2 years at $17 million. It's really only 11.5. Most of it's incentive based. Based on play and maybe wins or something like that.
But even
even
those numbers aren't that bad, considering backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Any quarterback in the NFL basically gets paid. Yeah.
Generally, yes, I 100% agree. Given the Giants' cap situation, when I saw the 17 number at first, I'm like, okay, if if we fit that in, like you couldn't go get another guard for me, but it's really only 11 and a half, and it's only, I think, 2 or 3 in year one, and it's like 6 and change in year 2.
Yeah.
And then the incentives depending on what happens. So it's
So
really not that bad of a contract.
Has anyone heard the latest from the rumor mill that one running back has taken the Giants out of his bio and later put it back in for a short period of time?
Saquon?
I did not hear that. That's obviously got to be Saquon, but I did not hear that.
It's what's on the Twitter rumor mill as we speak.
I'm looking to trade him, to be quite honest. I'm not going to be mad if they don't trade him. It's fine. It's going to put us in a tough spot either way, but I'm looking to trade him.
I just don't think he's that good.
I
don't know. I mean,
neither do I.
I was all about,
not as a running back at least.
But really, I just it's been. This was his 4th year.
This
was his 4th year.
Yeah,
and
5th year coming up.
I don't know, man. Rookie year, 2nd in rushing, led the league in total yards. Looked like he was just a stud, but between the injuries and just the offensive line doesn't help, but the tiptoeing through the line. But we've talked about this. I think the stats even show that last year he wasn't even when he was in. He wasn't even the best running back on the team. His yards per carry and all these advanced stats, it's just like he kind of forgot how to be a running back. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know what they get for him. If you get a third for him.
The offensive line is obviously a problem for him, but his running style has been the same since Penn State. He dances in the background before hitting a hole, and half the time, or more than half the time, he's only getting 2-3 yards. And then on the 7th carry, he gains 25. That's just not effective for me. I rather have the guy that's going to just give me 4, 5, 6 yards, constantly moving the chains, moving the clock. You can't, how many times are we going to be 3rd and 8 when there's 2, that alone. And let's say Saquon goes absolutely ballistic this year, proves us wrong. Goes ballistic. What do you do now? You're a non-competing team that's now pressured to sign a running back to a big deal. That is a no-no. Can't do it. I'd rather not even cross that situation. I'd rather just get something for him now than let him walk as a free agent next year.
In the comments here, Jason was saying, he hasn't been given a fair chance, or Josh would say hasn't been given a fair chance. I don't know if he's talking about Saquon, but then Jason said, man got an injury, let him come back off it. He's gotten an injury the last 3 years.
It's another problem.
And unfortunately,
they add up.
How old is he now? 26?
He's 26.
And the reality, we didn't make the rules. The reality is the life of a running back is very, very short. And even though they're not paying him an inordinate amount of money, and I like Saquon, and I'm not adamant about this, but for you, he keeps getting chances. He keeps getting injured. Every time you get injured, you're going to be probably a little worse off than you were. You're getting older and older each year, obviously. And so if he hasn't kind of figured it out in the last 3 years, it's not even like it's his fault, but even if he comes back and has a couple of more good years, it's like you could, in theory, you could trade, if you could trade Saquon for a 3rd or a 4th, you could pick up a running back in the 3rd or the 4th who could be as productive, if not more productive, than Saquon's been for the last 3 years, and you're getting him a hell of a lot cheaper and 5 years younger. So what really does he provide that a draft pick of equal value would not provide?
We've just seen too many times teams are effective running the football with 2 or 3 different running backs. Running backs that are not getting paid top dollar running back money. The Niners do it. The Bills don't have a great running game, but they use 2, and they're pretty damn good. Name me a running back that's paid top dollar at that position that has worked out. The only one that is so far doing is Derrick Henry. Ezekiel Elliott. You want Saquon Barkley to get the Ezekiel Elliott contract? that is ruining the Cowboys right now. That's the single reason they had to release Amari Cooper, who was much more effective than Ezekiel Elliott was last year when they were both on the field. Like, it's not even about what Saquon can bring to the Giants as a football player. It's just at their point, right, the way the team is right now, like, we just can't be bringing on a big contract for a running back. We're not a team that's ready for that. Like,
right, that's like a finishing touch piece if you could afford it.
Look
and
at the
you're right
McCaffrey
there.
deal. That's not working out for the Panthers too well, and he was the best running back in football by far 2 years ago.
Who drafted him?
I did.
Same thing. To address Jason Silver, 26 is not old in football, but for a running back who's coming off 3 injuries in 3 years, that adds up. But I think you got to move him.
Yeah,
I think it's better for him.
I agree.
Fresh
I
start.
totally agree.
Well, that's also what I was going to say. It's not just like, oh, give him an offense. Yeah, he'd be better. I've said to you before, Jack, even like last year, before the year started, I said, I think Saquon Barkley, with a great offensive line, would be one of the best running backs in football, because once he breaks past the offensive line and gets into the secondary or into the defensive backfield, he can, with his speed and different things, he could do things other guys can't do. But I don't know if the Giants are going to have like a
– He's a big play threat.
Right. And I don't know that this line is even this year, whatever we build will be good enough to give him that. It's just probably not the best use of our money and our picks and our just in general,
Where I always come back to, I think he can actually have some good games and may have a good season this year. It's just, what's it do for us? We're not a team that's going to win, so what's it do for us? Yeah. It just puts us in a situation where it's like, crap, now do we get
talk to Jason here.
$13 million a year?
So, Jason, I think what Jack is trying to say is, okay, even if he's good and it's not even his fault, right? So then at the end of this season, well, then what happens, though, Jack, contract-wise? They can either pay him, but is anybody going to pay him? Because you're going to say they could either trade him now and get something back for him, or at the end of the season, just he's gone and you get nothing for him, or you'll have to re-sign him. Would it be right? You'll have to sign him again. Yes. But would the price tag be
tag him?
Would the price tag be that high if he has a decent season this year as a 26-year-old running back?
A decent season? Probably not. But if he only has a decent season, why would we sign him if he only has a decent season and he's healthy, why would we even contemplate signing him? I'm saying if he has a great season, he is a clear top 10, borderline top 5 running back in the league. Great for him. Great talent. But again, he might now require over $10 million a year, and that's just something the Giants shouldn't be doing right now.
Yeah. What do you think if he had the similar numbers to his rookie year? Do you think that would move the needle for the Giants?
As in getting rid of him?
As in win-loss overall?
Oh, do you mean how much does you're saying how much does a running back affect an NFL team?
Right.
Basically.
Well, answer that question. His rookie year, he was rookie of the year and led the league in total yards, and the Giants went 5-11.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard question, or it's a hard question to answer. A running game, I think, is very important because but I think it's more as a whole, as a team, like as a whole, like if you have a running game that is consistently moving the chains and you're constantly second and short, second and medium, and the defense doesn't know what the heck you're going to do on second down, that's where running games are effective. But like Will said, look at what he did his rookie year, and the Giants stink.
So you're saying, though, there is a difference, like there's the old, what weighs more, 100 pounds of rocks or 100 pounds of feathers? So you're saying if someone said Saquon had 100 yards rushing today, you think there's a difference in how the game would turn out, whether he had 20 carries for 5 yards each or two 50-yarders and 18 0-yarders?
I think it's possible because say he had 100 yards, but 56 run, 1 run. Great, that led to.
I know. I just said 2 50-yard runs and then 0 and 18 0-yard runs.
Yeah. Okay. Great. We hopefully, I mean, in our past 3 years, we probably don't score touchdowns, so we probably get a field goal. But let's say we do score a touchdown. Great, we have 14 points. it's just proven in this league you can have a consistent quality run game without dishing out top dollar to a running back or having an elite running back. The 49ers do it every single year. Every single year.
Marco?
The Ravens do it every single year.
I mean, you want to get to the draft?
You know what I was thinking? I did a stupid poll on Instagram.
What about Bradbury? We could talk about that before.
We could talk about, and I blatantly asked, like, if you would only keep one, either Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley,
For this year?
For this year, who would you pick?
Well, it's got to be Jones by a mile.
Well, it's
What do you think people answer? And there were like a lot of votes.
Oh, they would say Saquon.
Yeah, it was like
the majority would say Saquon in a heartbeat.
70-30 Saquon.
You know what's funny is I may say Saquon if I can get a top 5 pick next year and take my quarterback. That means our quarterback. You know, who we as quarterback then?
Wait, I must have misunderstood the question. You asked Giants fans who they'd rather have on the team this year.
Yes, this year,
and they'd rather have
this year going forward
a running back that we're not sure about than a quarterback that we're not sure about.
Yeah, we're talking hundreds of votes.
Saquon probably was 80%.
It's
not.
No, he said 73%.
Oh, so
they 70. I don't understand that at all.
You don't understand that? I'm not surprised at that voting at all. That's just more. I think that's more of how people feel about each player than what it actually means for the team.
Okay,
that's what that means.
So, Bradbury, they moving on?
I think they do still.
3rd round pick?
I don't think so. I'd be ecstatic with that.
4th? You think 4th?
I think probably like a 5th, maybe. I think they still might release him. But I think if it comes to that, I think they should keep him at this point, because unless I just haven't seen the calculation that they need more money for their draft picks. I don't see the point in releasing him anymore. You're not putting that money towards, like, most of the free agents that we would have liked to sign are gone.
Yeah.
So I might as well keep Bradbury for the year and not have a massive hole at cornerback and be forced to take a corner back high in the draft at this point. So I'd only like to get rid of Bradbury if they got compensation for him at this point. Before, I was all over the release him, but that was way before free agency, because I was like, let's gear up for some free agents. And he's going to be 29, turning 30 at some point, I think, later in the year. He's at least going to be 29. And, corners at 30 age, they start to go down, and we're not winning right now. So there's no point to have him.
If there's money, if we got rid of him, how much did that open up for us?
$12 million.
And then is there anybody worth taking for that money that's still available?
They still need some
Bozeman, but we know they're not going to sign Bozeman because Feliciano's going to play center.
Right.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the guards wise is not really.
I heard the Vikings are looking to move their D end. Danielle, what is it?
Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter.
He's pretty damn good, huh?
He is. I think he's like 28 now, or
he's like 27.
Okay,
I think he's like 27, but they're looking to trade him.
Player for player?
I don't know.
He'll be 20.
Saquon and Bradbury for Hunter.
Sign me up. Hunter's, I think, been hurt the past year and a half, but he was elite just before he went down with an injury. He was very, very good.
So I don't know. I can't look anything up because I don't have my computer near me.
White.
What do you want?
I was going to look at his PFF grades.
That don't you all know that ACL injuries take 2 years to heal?
Yes. Like I said, it doesn't matter if Saquon goes off this year. It puts the Giants in a bad spot financially next year when they need so many other pieces that are more important than a running back.
So Sal, my question to you is, can the Giants afford another 2 years of being a shit team?
Well, he's going to count last year as 1 year.
No.
But wait, how many ACLs? Hasn't Saquon done his ACL a bunch? Which one are we talking about? When does the 2 years kick in?
From
The
when he
first
got
time or the
hurt,
second time?
I guess. So
Should-
last year was year 1. Because
Okay.
he came
Year
back.
1, version 2.
Didn't he get hurt last year too?
Yeah, it was,
You remember he slipped on the Cowboys' foot
Yeah, he
and
stepped
rolled
on
his
someone's
ankle,
foot. Yeah.
and his ankle blew up. And then let's not forget he had an ankle injury before the ACL.
Before
Like
that,
it's not
yeah.
just the ACL. Like it's
No.
ankle injuries. Like it's piling up, man.
it's the position. The position is ruthless.
Correct. He's had some bad luck. It's not his fault. It happens.
No, I mean stepping on someone's foot. That was like I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. I don't know, but not that it's his fault again, but the luck. So Bradbury, you think, Marco? You think we just get rid of him at this point, or you
I
think?
mean, I think if it's going to be a 5th, I would keep him. 3rd, I would do it. 5th, I would just keep him. 4th, how high up in 4th? Like
I
Well,
feel like
first pick in the 4th round, or are we talking?
I think they could get a 4th round pick for him.
I'd still take the 5th.
It's like yeah,
Do it, huh?
if he's
Yeah.
on the team this year,
So
at
you
least
would
we don't have to waste
you
a
would
draft pick on the
you would rather trade for almost any amount of pick, 6th round pick,
5th is
Right,
probably my
rather
limit.
than cut him.
5th is probably my limit on what I trade him. 6th, I would just keep him because 5th, like I'm looking at what they have. They've already 2 5th round picks. So if you gain a 3rd, that's just like logically okay. I can now package something to move up on day 3 into round 4, or God forbid round 3 with the 4th and 2 5ths. So that's kind of where my mindset was at the 5th being the absolute
package.
max that I would take for him, knowing he's not a piece for the future. So that's why I don't really care that much where he goes. It just makes me nervous that it opens up a huge hole, and now we're taking a corner at 7 overall, no matter what. That's makes me nervous.
Now to the draft. Segue right into it. Will, are you screaming O-line, O-line?
Marco, it's a terrible year to have the 5 and the 7, my man. I hate to be the bearer of bad news or just the realistic guy, but normally when you're at 5 and 7, you're either able to pick up if you need a quarterback, you could pick up. You could pick up at 5 or 7. You could pick up Justin Herbert at 5 or 7. You could pick up Josh Allen at 5 or 7. Right? They
Those are
went
good quarterbacks.
No,
Penny
they went
Sewell,
after.
Mark
They went after 5. I'm talking quarterbacks here. So usually there's the top quarterbacks, Marco, and you can grab one for your team, a future franchise quarterback. That's what 5 team picking 5th does. At the very least, there's usually quarterbacks and quarterback-hungry teams ahead of you that push stud players back to you. So you can grab the generational player. You can grab, the Kyle Pittses of the draft, or even though he has had a okay 2 years, the Chase Youngs of the draft, they can drop back to you somehow. Well, the Giants are in a position right now. It's the weakest top 10 of a draft I can remember. It's the weakest quarterback class where nobody's going to bite on a quarterback likely in the top 5 picks or top 10 picks even potentially. Every team in front of the Giants probably shares the Giants' needs. So whereas if we really like to get let's say, in a typical year, we'd be able to go ahead and maybe draft Neal and either Hutchinson or Thibodeau, or Aquanu and Hutchinson or Thibodeau. This year, we're going to be lucky to grab one of those guys. Because you're looking at 1, it's probably either going to go Hutchinson or Neal. At 2, it could go Hutchinson. I don't know if any of these D guys are going to get in there. And you look at the way people are free agent, using free agents right now. The Jets bringing in secondary pieces, so they're either going to go probably edge rusher or offensive tackle. I just think we could be in a scenario. Now, I believe Cross is good enough for the 5 or the 7, and I would probably lean if all those guys, like I said to Jack, there's 5 guys that I think are worthy of the 5 and the 7. And it's Hutchinson, Thibodeau, even though he's fallen a little bit for me, Neal, Aquanu, and just on the fringe is Charles Cross. If all those guys are gone by 7, I'd like to trade back with 7. Or I'd probably take a Jabo as my next guy just because there's so much upside there. I know some people will say Sauce. I just don't like taking DBs that high. I just don't. the last 6 DBs we took in the first round, not one of them went to the Pro Bowl. DBs are very hit or miss, in my opinion, in general. But I know people say Martindale's defense could use a guy like that. But in general, I would love to grab one of those 3 offensive tackles and one of those 2 edges. And I know Hutchinson's not going to be there. But ideally, you'd grab Neal or Aquanu and at 5, and you'd grab Thibodeau at 7. But it's a very real possibility that Neal, Aquanu, Thibodeau, and Hutchinson go in the first 4 picks. And we're there with OT3, if the Giants even take them. I hope they don't take Penning and get to that another time. But they could take, it's a really weird situation where you're looking at OT3 and edge 4 at 5 and 7. It's unheard of. Do I make sense, Marco?
I don't want to agree with you.
Don't tell me why I'm wrong, please.
I'm trying to think of a way where you're not
now,
wrong.
Anything could happen.
Okay,
there's always the guy. There's always the Cleveland Farrell that gets taken. Somebody could trade up. The Giants could trade up to Houston. Houston could take a quarterback. So, things can happen. But I'm just saying the fact that we don't know right now, we're landing 2 studs that we could really use is a shame, and it's unique for having a 5 and a 7.
There's the possibility that a quarterback goes. Someone trades up. You don't know. It happens every year. So we don't know. And maybe that pushes someone down. Maybe that makes a guy who was going to go 3 down to 4 to 5,
I would say luckily if that does happen, that scenario, I'm still comfortable taking Cross at 5. And that's not just because I think we desperately need a right tackle. There is literally not one on the roster. I think Matt Pert is the only one, and he's out till probably November with an ACL. So that's besides the point. I think Cross is just on the fringe of worthy in this draft, worthy of that 5th pick if he's the last tackle available. His pass blocking has been, exceptional, and his run blocking has been decent, But as for a tackle, I'm looking at the pass blocking first. So it would just be so great to have Thomas and another young tackle just solidified there for the next 10 years. And then whenever we can make a move for our real quarterback, whether that be Jones, if he somehow unlocks something, or another one the following season, we don't have to worry about the pocket constantly collapsing. Like it's got to be done.
Yeah.
I have a wild feeling that they're not going to address the offensive line in the first round.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised, because if you look at the Bills and what they did the same thing during their rebuild. They did not take a top offensive lineman. They built around day 2 offensive linemen and free agents. So I wouldn't be shocked either. It will stress the hell out of me, but it won't shock me.
It's the big gamble, especially, we brought in the GM who I wasn't a fan of, who said he was going to fix the offensive line and hog mollies and all that stuff. And he never did. And then the only pick that I thought he did well on the offensive line was Andrew Thomas. He's the only holdover.
Yeah.
And to gamble
Sal,
and not address it, it's going to be tough.
Sal, just let me know why you said I'm crazy. So I want to know what he said. I talk crazy sometimes. What it is that I said that was crazy.
I just think a lot of them are especially not happy with us talking about just getting rid of players for bare minimum. But
no, this just happened while I was talking about the draft. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man. But Marco, the thing with the offensive line is, in my opinion, in this draft, you can get a good interior offensive lineman in the 2nd round, 3rd round, maybe even the 4th round. This is in my opinion, there's 3 top tackles, and then there's a huge drop off of question marks. And a tackle is something you don't want to get in free agency because it costs you so much. They're so valuable. We do have 2 high picks. We do need a right tackle. So, if you need a tackle, Marco, and they're going to cost you too much to try to go ahead and get one in free agency that's young and worth anything, and you have the 5 and the 7, and there's 3 good tackles available, and one of them is probably going to drop. One of them, probably is going to drop to you at 5. Then I don't see what other scenario are you looking for to get a tackle? We don't have a right tackle. There's 3 good tackles up top. We have 2 top picks. There's not any good tackles, in my opinion, really, in the second round, third round. There's not any good value out there. So I don't see why it just makes sense to take an offensive tackle.
And we don't have one. We literally don't have one.
Mm-hmm. What was it, 5? Can you guys give me 1 second?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bounce
Yeah,
off
what's
of
up?
Yeah.
All right, good. We finally got rid of him. So yeah, and then when it comes to and I got to talk to Mark about Trayvon Walker, but
get that off your chest. I know.
Get that off my chest. But the
only thing I worry about, Will,
yeah,
is later on in this, before the draft, is if they do go and sign this Darrell Williams, and they just plug him in. Yeah, he's that right tackle. He plays right tackle and right guard. He came from the Bills. He's decent. That's the only thing I could see them, if they don't want to take a tackle that high. They think Aquanu and Neal are gone by 5. They might sign him and just kind of be like, I can plug him in for a year or 2 and he can get me by. He won't be great. I don't want them to do that, but it wouldn't shock me. I mean, the relationship is there.
Right. And I mean, you're going to have to get a tackle eventually. So unless your plan is we'll get a plug and play guy for 1 year or 2 years and then just do it again the next 2 years and do it again the next 2 years, or we'll do it next year and then just hope in the next year if we draft number 11 overall, you just hope there's a really good tackle available. To me, it seems like a prime opportunity. Like I said, how often do you desperately need a tackle, have 3 good tackles at the top of the draft, and have 2 picks in the top 7 where you can land a tackle? So I would like them to do that. Marco, I don't know what you know about Trayvon Walker at all, but he's a guy that's gotten really hot in people's draft boards lately.
It's Will's favorite player.
No, and I got nothing against the guy. I think he's a good player. You know what I'm talking about from Georgia, Marco. He killed it at he's the physical freak of the combine. He killed it at the combine. Daniel Jeremiah has him going to the Giants at number 5. People have him all of a sudden as a top 5 guy. Meanwhile, the NFL's own website has him as like the 41st best prospect in the draft or something. But so many boards now, because he's 6'5", he's 270, no body fat. He ran a 6.40. He had a good, broad and vertical and all that stuff. All of a sudden, after the combine, he flew up people's boards from like 25 to 5. And a lot of people are thinking the Giants could potentially take him. And I watched a decent amount of film on him. And my issue is I think he's a really good football player. But first of all, his stats aren't great. Like his defensive stats, his sacks, his tackle for a loss, his pass rush win rate, none of these things, they're literally half or a third of what the other edge rushers in this draft are. And when you watch him play, he's not a true edge rusher. Because of his size, he's a defensive lineman. He's very much like a Leonard Williams. And yeah, he's got a lot of physical potential, but even when he does line up as a true edge on the outside, I watched both full games keying on him against Alabama this past year. I think he got pressure on the quarterback, actually touched the quarterback with an outside rush once in 2 games and didn't sack him. So actually, no, he didn't do it at all. That's in a highlight reel of his that I watched afterward, where one time he actually got to the quarterback from the edge. So my opinion of Trayvon Walker is really good football player, very good defensive lineman, could potentially be a wrecking ball type of a guy. But if you're looking for a pass rusher who's going to come off the edge and provide that constant heat, like Strahan, like OC, like JPP, to this point, he has not proven that at all. I mean, it's just not in his repertoire. He has no pass rush moves, anything. So I don't mean to come down too hard at him. Physically, he's very, very capable, and he could be a very good defensive lineman, but he's not like a true edge rusher. So I would prefer somebody who actually knows how to be an edge rusher, like an Ajabo, at, let's say, 7, than Trayvon Walker.
I would agree. He is a bounce around type of defensive lineman, and he may be very good on a team that already has some pass rushing, more than the Giants. It's not what I'm looking for either.
Now, I don't know. I mean, is he just that strong where he can just push guys? Can you teach somebody quickness off the edge? Can you teach somebody all these pass rush moves and everything? It's possible. It's very possible. People are saying he's like a Rashawn Gary. and I didn't really want him because he wasn't polished and he was all physical potential, and it seems like he's putting together a decent career, even though it's very early. So it looks like he's turning into a decent player, I should say, a pretty good player. But if people are expecting, okay, we need to have a great pass rush, and you're expecting Trayvon Walker to come in and be just flying off the edge and get into the quarterback all the time, I don't know that that's exactly what he's going to be.
I agree.
Who do you think the best overall prospect in the draft is this year?
Hutchinson.
It's probably Hutchinson.
Followed by,
I don't think it's by a big margin either.
Hutchinson. I think my top 5 is Hutchinson, Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, Evan Neal, and maybe Thibodeau at 5. I think that's where I'm at right now. And then I think I've got Aquanu at 6. Stingley maybe 7. Cross at 8. Trying to remember who else I have. Maybe Jamison Williams at 9. And, I haven't looked at my board in like a week. Who am I forgetting? Not Linderbaum. Maybe Jordan Davis after he crushed the combine.
So you think 5 is too early for a safety or a corner, right?
Personally, I can't stand corners and safeties, Marco. It's a vice of mine. I don't know what it is. They're not involved in every play. Even the best ones can get smoked sometime, like we've seen with Ramsey the last 2 weeks of the season last year. Everything has to go right for a wide receiver to get involved. The line has to block. The quarterback has to see him. You got to call his number. The quarterback has to make a good throw. He's got to get open. He's got to also catch the ball. I just am a believer in top 10 picks should be, unless you're not putting finishing touches on if you have a top 10 pick, unless you traded for the pick. But I believe in quarterbacks, offensive line, and defensive line being where I like to personally go in those top 10 picks. I don't know. That's just the way that I feel. The statistics might not prove me right on that. It might just be a stubborn, old school football type of mentality, but that's just the way that I feel.
I think if you take those positions that you mentioned, franchise tag wise, the value of what the teams put on their players, I think it's almost in that order.
Oh, yeah.
Offensive line, defensive line, and maybe corner might be the following one. So.
Corner, receivers up there, yeah.
Like we've seen teams, even on the Giants, we see plays where they have great coverage, and if you don't have a pass rush, the quarterback will just stand back there all day and eventually pick you apart. But if you have a great pass rush, the 2011 and 2007 Giants secondary was okay, but I specifically remember them saying, like, Corey Webster, he had a rough year last year, and now all of a sudden he's having a great year. I don't think the defensive backfield was any different, did anything different. The pass rush was just so nasty
that
the quarterbacks just had no time to throw at anybody. So I like to build, I guess I like to build from the ball out. You know what I'm saying? That's how I like to build. You get your quarterback, your offensive line, your tight ends, your linebackers, and then you branch out to the secondary. And that's just how I feel. I don't know. Like I said, advanced analytic people might say, I know people love corners right now. A shutdown corner is essential, this and that. But to me, it's about what goes on in the trenches. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of in that school. I don't want to be, but I find myself in there.
You don't want to be? Why?
I don't. I want to build the lines and have a solid quarterback play, but I know it's a passing league, and if you have one guy,
what school are you in?
I think if you get the corner who could shut down a receiver,
right,
shut down the whole side of the field, that's dynamite.
But you can't get that guy in the second round who might give up an extra 100 yards over the course of the season. Is it that big of a deal? And look at all these guys that get taken up top. Jack, you got to help me out because you know more about this than I do. Give me some corners. Akuda, first corner ever drafted in the top 3 or whatever the hell it was. What is he? What?
He had a rough
happened
year.
to that?
I believe the beginning of the year was rough.
Rookie year, and then he got hurt.
I don't know. I just feel like if you get corners that are just decent, you're fine. That's how I feel. Get corners that are just decent, and you're fine. The action is around the ball. I don't know. I could be really stupid. I'm admitting that, but that's just how I feel.
I think it's close if you get to 7 and we have our tackle and Thibodeau's gone. and you have Gardner sitting there, and then you could also take a Jabo or Jermaine Johnson.
Right.
Like, I have Gardner higher on my board than those other two edge rushers.
Me too.
To Will's point, it's the risk factors, I think, definitely much higher when it comes to corner. And I like Gardner a lot, actually. He's 6'3", he's fast, he's physical. Like, he's different than a lot of these other top corner prospects where I have a little bit more faith in him actually being a good player than others coming out of college. Because it's, like you said, it's hard. It's harder for corners. You know,
Yeah.
People say all the time it's the hardest position to play, especially now because
it's
you can't hold them,
thankless.
you can't do anything.
It is thankless. That or quarterback, if you want to talk about the mental aspect of it. But it's one of the hardest positions in sports to play, and it's completely thankless.
Right. And if you have no pass rush, like you said, eventually you're just going to give it up.
Yeah, you can't do it forever. Connor says he's hoping for Kayvon
unless you're playing
Thibodeau
the Giants. Then you can cover all that.
hoping for Thibodeau and Cross.
That's
that'd
the
be
dream.
great. I think perfect. I mean, ideally it would be Neal and Hutchinson, but that's not happening. But yeah, I mean, Neal or Kwanu dropping us would be great. But by the way, everyone listening out there, watching out there, I do the homework. I watch probably 6 games each on all 3 offensive tackles. And I got to tell you the truth, and Marco, you and I haven't really discussed this either. I don't see a major difference, huge difference in the style of play. Neal is huge. Not unbelievably strong for his size, but he's huge. He's athletic. I worry about his balance, his side to side. And I get a little nervous that he's always been so much bigger and stronger than everybody that he's going to be able to, that he might, I don't want to say lazy, but not realize how much technique you need in order to actually get it done when guys are almost your size. So with him, probably the safest pick, 2-year starting left tackle at Alabama. Big guy. On paper, it just makes sense. But I do worry about his balance a little bit. Kwanu is the best run blocking tackle in this draft, best run blocker in this draft overall. I think he'd be a great guard. I think he'd be a once every 5-year type of guard. He's got long arms. He's tenacious. He's fun to watch. He loves knocking people on their ass. I mean, he on every play literally looks like he's trying to knock as many people on their ass as possible before the whistle blows, and sometimes after the whistle blows. But he's got some technique issues. I mean, there are times where he can just get beat off the ball by an edge rusher and barely even touch him because his footwork isn't totally there. And then Cross has a great frame. He's got great technique. He's got great balance. Not super strong, not a bull in the run game, but I was impressed watching him at the combine. He had more musculature on him than I thought he was going to have. He moved really well. People just get scared because of the system he's in that they hardly ever run block, and he's never been in a 3-point stance in college. So you're taking a risk with any of these guys, but something just tells me that Cross could sort of be like an Andrew Thomas. You're not going to notice him doing amazing things, but you're kind of just not going to notice him, which for an offensive lineman is a good thing. It just means he kind of did what he was supposed to do. So I have a little more faith. I think Giants fans are kind of 50-50 on whether or not they believe in Cross as worth the 5 or the 7. I personally would take a shot there. I think he is. Marco's just dipping without even saying he's dipping at this
Totally
point.
disrespectful.
It really seems like my point. I'm here.
Yeah, he was so over your point. He was like,
I'm talking my heart out here. I'm opening up, and then Marco just is like, goodbye.
Yep, I don't have time for that.
He doesn't have footwork. Sal, have you watched?
I think he's talking about. I think he was talking about
Kwanu. Who's he talking about?
I think he commented that one to Kwanu, and then you literally said the same thing after he commented.
Okay, Kwanu's footwork on the pass blocking is not great, and run blocking it's good. Neal's footwork is okay. Cross's footwork's pretty good, and like I said, Jack, I was happy with how he looked as an athlete during the combine. I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch the combine.
It was definitely more reassuring, I would say.
Yeah, it was. Marco, I'm in the middle of talking. You just bounce?
I can't. I didn't like what you were saying.
What's going on? Well, how do you feel then?
I feel pissed.
How do you feel about my offensive lineman soliloquy there, about the 3 of them?
Well, I said earlier, I don't think they're going to go offensive lineman in the first 2 picks.
Would you like them to?
Yeah. 1. Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't think there's a second one that they would take. The only way they would take 2 is if they would take if they would take Linderbaum, but I don't think he's going to go that high. Plus, they already got a center, they think, in Feliciano. I would if it dropped this way, I really would take Neal or Cross and then take Aquino and make him a guard. I would, but I know they would never do that.
I think we get nervous if Bradbury does get released. That they could
that
go
they're going to
edge
take
corner,
Sauce.
edge and
That would
corner.
be Sauce.
Oh, maybe that's the way I can look at it. And by the way, Gardner's my number 3 player on my board.
Yeah, he's top 4 for me at least, I think.
So I think he's really good, but it's just I admit that it seems to be a hit or miss type of thing, and you just never know, in my opinion, with these dudes. But that's true, Jack. If the Giants keep Bradbury, you pretty much know. I don't say you know, but that decreases the chances of Sauce by like 50%.
I would say so. But I was saying you're right. But I was saying the opposite of if they do release him, then we get nervous that they don't go tackle round 1 and they go edge and corner with 5 and 7 instead
Like
of tackle.
if they go like Walker and Sauce, I'm gonna Walker to. I'm walking to Giant Stadium. Well, I can't say that in this day and age because they're gonna think it's really a threat. I'm not actually I'm gonna walk there and just voice my displeasure.
There you go.
Okay.
I think it seems a little obvious especially if they do get rid of Bradbury on the positions that they actually have to target.
Well, that's why
Offensive line,
unless they
tight
desperately need
ends.
space, I don't want them to do it because it's such a glaring need now that I don't want them to. You know, when you go into the draft, you don't want to have to address a need most of the time. You know, we already kind of have that with tackle, but like we've kind of all agreed on, tackle is what you normally would take in the top 10 pick. That's where the tackles go. So kind of thankfully falls like to that level since we already need that. But to need both tackle and corner, now you have to take both no matter what in at least day 1 or day 2. Like you do want to have a general idea like, okay, I could really need 5 positions. Let me take best available out of all 5. That's what you really do in the draft. Usually that's what people do.
I think I'm just envisioning them getting Walker and like him getting like a lot of push, but I just love that guy flying off the edge, man. I just do. Remember the OC days? You know, you force the quarterback back up in the pocket. You strip sacking him all the time. It's just extra heat. The quarterback can't see you coming, and I don't think Walker's that guy. And you know, whether it's Jermaine Johnson, for me, I've kind of sweetened a little bit on Ajabo lately. Might have him maybe 13 or so in my draft, and you might people that say best player available. Oh, you'd be happy with that number 13 player at number 7? Well, I'd rather they trade it back. Again, to repeat,
I was going to get to that.
My 5 guys, Marco, again that I think are worth 5 and 7 for us, or for anybody when you look at positional need. Well, especially for us, would be those 3 tackles, Neal, Aquino, Cross, and Thibodeau and Hutchinson. And if they're all gone at 7, I'd love to trade back into the teams.
I would love it because we most likely need the ammo next year to move up for our quarterback. I think it would be so not even just because of that. When you get to 7, like you were saying a little bit before, Will, like you have your 5 guys. When you get to 7, like you can see a lot of similarities between player 7 and like player 18. So like that also helps me. Like I definitely need a trade back. If it's it takes 2 to tango on a trade, so it's not like I'm going to crush them if they don't trade them because they may not get the offer. But if they do, that's it.
Yeah, Connor. I agree. Although I will say, corner is another position that I think washes up between picks like 40 and 70. Yeah. So in that 37, we have pick 36, I think it is.
36.
At 36, there's like 2 or 3 corners that potentially, I'm trying to think, is it Kyler Gordon or something?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yeah, he's from Washington. You got McCreary from Auburn.
Is it Goodrich and Elam, maybe?
Elam's the Florida kid.
So those are guys, but after that, if they're all for some reason, if 6 corners go in the first 35 picks, I wouldn't grab one until like the late 3rd. But those three offensive, Penning is a guy, Mark, I don't know if you're familiar with him. And I know you're familiar with who he is. And by the way, I feel like a lot of times I say Marco and I feel like I'm leaving out Jack. It's just Jack and I talk about this stuff every day. So I know what he's familiar with. Penning is a guy who I started really, everybody was getting real excited about him. 6'7",
Nasty.
330 pounds, whatever. He's a nasty guy. He throws people down. He did all this, he's got this attitude, and he went to the combine. He had great agility, he had great speed,
great strength.
But then I watched his one-on-ones and some of his work during Senior Bowl week. Because what college did he go to, Jack?
I'll look Northern. He was Northern Iowa.
Iowa.
It was Northern Iowa, I think. It wasn't.
He's not playing against any top competition, correct. Marco. So when I saw him do one-on-one drills in the Reese's Senior Bowl week, I threw the Reese's in there. Just get a plug. Maybe they'll send some Reese's peanut butter cups my way.
Maybe.
He got beat more than half the time. Now that drill, no one's really said this because I posted it, but I'm thinking in fairness, maybe that drill is more set up where it looks like maybe an edge is going to have a better chance to win. A defensive line better chance to win than an offensive lineman.
Literally one-on-one.
And a little one-on-one, no other line there. But even trying to use all my football acumen and look at it, and even if an offensive lineman in that drill just holds a block for 2 full seconds, the quarterback probably will have gotten rid of the ball. But even given all those things, he didn't look that good going up against a lot of these guys.
He's definitely raw.
The Ebicades and Tariq Smith and all these guys. What'd you say?
He's a monster, though. Oof. I'm looking
more times than not.
6'7", 330, but these guys are getting under his pads.
22.
So he'd get beat. He'd get pushed into the quarterback, got knocked on his ass a few times. And then I think he's penalty prone. And you think he's penalty prone when he's dominating and bigger than guys in Northern Iowa. I wonder if he's getting beat a little bit, how many holding penalties is this guy going to get? So to me, he's worth a mid to late first round pick, but I really don't think the Giants just swing at him in the first round.
I think he's a first round pick. He's just not a top 10 pick. I mean, more times than not, you went to Northern Iowa for a reason. It's because you weren't great at football compared to everyone else. He's probably a project. He has the, he does have what you can't teach. He has the size. He has the athleticism. So that is something you could look at, and then your offensive line coach is like, I can teach him this and that. But that's not what you really want to do with the number 7 pick is have a project on your hands, which I think he is. And that's fine. That he could work out. He could be great. Just it's a high risk.
There's so much to talk about. I know we got a little bit of a later start. It's already 11 o'clock. I mean, we got to convene again and continue talking about this stuff. But
definitely
there's a lot to go. But I guess what I'll say is, Marco, you are all three of us at the level of basic satisfaction with the offseason so far. Not thrilled, but not disappointed.
It's very basic, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On paper, I still don't see this team as of now getting more than 8 wins as it's composed now.
No, we're not anywhere near.
Nowhere
that,
near
man.
it. Yeah.
No. But
no.
And then I'll ask you this, Marco. I want to ask you, all three of us, I'd say, what is your ideal, realistic 5 and 7, and who's someone that you, and then also who's someone that you're fairly sweet on in this draft somewhere. So I'll start just to get the ball rolling. My ideal would be probably Neal or Kwanu at 4. I'd settle for Cross, and then if Thibodeau drops to us at 5, then he might get past the Panthers at 6 because they might not go that way. So we could potentially land him at 7. So it's probably not realistic.
Would you take
that would be the ideal for me. What'd you say, Jack?
Would you take Thibodeau at 5 if he's there?
It depends what tackles are there. I'd rather land the tackle. So if you're going to tell me,
Only
because
Cross.
What'd you say?
Only Cross is available.
So it's Cross and Thibodeau at 5. You could play poker. You could gamble and take Cross at 5 and hope that Panthers don't take Thibodeau because they don't really need Thibodeau. Or you could just guarantee yourself of getting your tackle. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I think because I have Thibodeau higher than Cross. I think, as he should be, I think he's a much better prospect, and I think Cross is a great prospect, by the way. But at this moment, I think you have to take tackle. Just looking at the landscape of the team, we don't have a right tackle. If we go quarterback next offseason in the draft, like you need just get the tackles in place for him. So Jones doesn't have to go through what Jones had to go through.
Yeah.
So as much as that would hurt, Cross probably the move, I think. And then you just pray for number 6 pick to be Trayvon Walker.
Marco, what are you thinking?
So summarizing it, everyone says it's going to be Cavani and then Cross. That's what everyone's hoping for.
That's the dream. That's the dream, I think.
Well, no, the dream is a Kwanu or Neal, and then I guess the realistic dream is an offensive tackle, and somehow Thibodeau falls to us. I really don't think that's going to happen. So the question becomes, what do you do at 7 if they do the tackle at 5? And then my ideal would be to trade back because, like Jack was alluding to earlier, it opens up so much. I mean, if I were picking 15 all of a sudden, I would consider Linderbaum. I'd consider Johnson. I'd consider Ajabo. I'd consider Walker. I'd consider Devin Lloyd, the linebacker. I'd consider maybe a D-back if someone slips back to you. I'd consider a wide receiver if it's good value. Like you consider so much if you're picking in the mid-teens all of a sudden. So
yeah.
Even though we're happy that it would be Cross.
Kenyon Green, guards, Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson.
Yeah.
What do you say, Marco?
I still think it's going to be very unlikely that a team is not going to try to come up into the top 5 to get a quarterback.
Yeah, it's going to be
what team and
every year, it happens all the time. Or one of them takes a quarterback. Yeah,
I would say top 10. I wouldn't be top 5. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I would definitely say someone's trading up for one of them.
But hold up, though. The last time we had a quarterback class that's kind of this week was the Jones year. But that year had Kyler Murray, which this year doesn't have a Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. So if you remove Murray from that equation,
and no one traded up for that in that.
I'm trying to say, if you remove Murray from that equation, and you just had Jones, Haskins, and whoever the hell else was in that class, that's kind of like this class. And no one traded into the top 5. No one would have taken a quarterback in the top 5. It was just Murray. You know, I just think it's that week of the year.
He was there.
But there's no Murray in there. But we knew he was going number 1. There's no one like that in this class. I haven't seen a quarterback ranked in the top 10 on anybody's board. I don't have one on my top 25.
So you don't think that one quarterback is going to go in the top 10? You can say that confidently.
No, you completely just made that sentence up. I didn't say I'm confident no quarterback will go in the top 10. I said most draft boards don't have a top 10 on the board. The big board, and I don't have one at 25. Positional value always wins out. If I had to guess, if I had to realistically guess, I would say 1 to 2 quarterbacks go in the top 10. And if I had to bet money, does a quarterback go top 5, yes or no, whether it's a trade or not, I would have to think long and hard. I think it's a 50-50.
You know,
I would lean towards no. Jack, what about you? If you had to bet $1,000 right now, does a quarterback go top 5 any way, shape, or form? Yes or no? I would lean no.
I mean, I would lean no because it's the safer bet. When I bet, I bet safe.
So you think it's a safer bet?
It's a safer bet, but I mean, you're looking at the Lions. They need a long-term quarterback. The Texans are going to need a quarterback. You know, there are 2 teams already in the top 5 that need a quarterback. So if Malik Willis actually impress them that much, they may just end up taking him. And you're also talking about 2 very small market teams that have sucked so much over and over again. They may just be like, I got to take the risk. I got to.
Well, that's why I keep saying to Jack, Marco, I've never seen a non-quarterback match made in heaven like Hutchinson to the Lions. They are arguably the most pathetic franchise in the NFL in the last 50 years. They have no star power, the tickets, all this stuff. They just got rid of their quarterback, and he goes and leaves you and wins the Super Bowl six weeks later. Okay? So Hutchinson is already a football celebrity. He went to high school in Michigan. He went to college in Michigan. I'm not a college football guy except for the last couple of years. I think he's the biggest celebrity football player to come out of – the biggest name to come out of Michigan in a long time, Jack.
Isn't Jack a Michigan fan?
Notre Dame.
Since what?
So I know Michigan well because of that.
Since Woodson or Howard, has there been a quarterback I'm forgetting about?
More than Hutchinson. He's the biggest name to come out in a while. I mean,
so Marco, not only does he fill a need, not only is it a key position, even if you don't need it, it's edge. He's not only is he the best player, but he's got a good personality. He seems like he's marketable. He is from there. He's a hometown boy. He will sell jerseys and tickets like crazy. So I just think that's a match made in heaven. I can't see that if he's there. The question now becomes, what does Jacksonville do? And I wouldn't be surprised if Jacksonville trades back a little bit, because they might not think that anyone in this draft is worth the number one. Or if they what's their edge situation right now, Jacksonville?
Josh Allen. Chasen from Light LSU. I don't know if he's.
So if they don't feel they need an edge,
right?
Yeah, they don't feel they need an edge.
That guy.
And that's the other thing. Did you see that I just zoned out when you said that? Because I realized the other night I used to look forward to the draft, and now I just fear it because I'm scarred. Because not only is it enough where you have to pray that someone falls to you and then they don't, but the last 2 times the person I prayed that would fall to us by some miracle fell to us by some miracle. Josh Allen, supposed to go number 2 or 3, falls to 6, and we pass up on him for Daniel Jones. And then Slater and even Parsons fall to us somehow at 11. And we trade it for a rapper and a future first. And that future first now is going to get us like OT6 at 5. We'll be lucky to get a top 5 tackle at number 5, Marco.
Well, we got young Joker.
Oh my, yeah, we got a bunch of jokes. No, so anyway, we'll see. Overall, it has been a cautiously optimistic offseason for the Giants, and I will be so happy. Like, someone sent me on Twitter the other day, Will, go ahead, have at it. What do you think of this mock? 5, Neal. They did a mock, and the mock draft website gave him Neal at 5. They took Thibodeau at 7. I stopped looking at I said, dude, I don't care if we take 6 running backs after that. If we land Neal and freaking Thibodeau, I am happy. I am thrilled. If we land Thibodeau and an offensive tackle at 5 and 7, I will be thrilled. So
yeah. A couple guys that I like later in the draft, though. Running back James Cook, Georgia. I know Joe Shane was at their pro day today, and apparently there is some leaked interest in James Cook to the Giants.
People mentioned him in the Giants earlier.
I'm sorry?
A few people actually mentioned him in the chat earlier.
Yeah, I saw it before. I've liked him for a while now. He's faster. I mean, it was just a combine, so take that with a grain of salt. He's faster than Dalvin Cook, his brother. So I like him a lot. I like
his brother is Dalvin Cook?
Yes.
James Cook from Georgia?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes. I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Tight end wise, love McBride out of Colorado State. I think he's the best one.
You do love him?
I actually love him.
When did that happen?
Because
we've been talking. We've been saying that none of the tight ends are naked or full, above anybody else. What happened?
Let me finish, Will. I'll give you your answer.
Go.
I think he is the number 1 tight end, and there's no debate over it. The problem is there isn't a huge gap in between him and the rest of the guys. On top of, I think it's actually a pretty deep tight end class where I like guys like Jeremy Rucker. It's a tight end out of Ohio State later on. McBride, it seems like he's going to be that, the consistent, like reliable tight end, but he doesn't seem like he's that athletic ability of like your Kittles and your Pitts and your Kelseys, where he's just going to absolutely dominate. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think he can be a great tight end. I think he will be a really good tight end, but it's a pretty deep tight end class when you go into the later rounds, like Rucker. You got Isaiah Likely, you got Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin, guys that have shown ability to be able to catch and block. So I think McBride would have to cost us our 2nd round pick. I think I'd be shocked if he gets to the 3rd, and I'm just not willing to do that in the 2nd round. I'll wait into the 3rd and hopefully grab one of those guys that I mentioned.
Yeah, I think you could grab a tight end. I think there's like 8 to 10 tight ends that I'd be cool with. So I want one really bad, but I'd be cool taking one in like the 4th. I mean, honestly, there's even a guy like Jelani
I do want
Woods
to
or
take
something.
one. They do need someone.
They do need someone. By the way, Sal, I was just about to say
It's been hating on you.
before we got off, like, I appreciate, even though you guys, even if he's saying something kind of ripping on me, whatever, I love the enthusiasm. Thanks for coming on, the show and watching and writing. But after all of the detailed knowledge that I'm dropping, talking about film and watching and footwork and technique and draft guys and this and that, all these different things I'm saying, the fact that I didn't know that the Cooks were brothers, he's like, see, this is what I'm talking about. Will's crazy. He doesn't know anything. Like, seriously, Sal? Seriously? God. It's like, it's like getting on freaking, I don't know, Dale Earnhardt because he ran a red light or something. It's like, it's so minuscule. Come on. I don't know where I just went NASCAR.
Yeah, I mean,
NASCAR all
James
my life.
I didn't know him either.
It's going to be a mid-round pick. It's not like James Cook's going to be a
Right. We're not talking about like, wait a minute,
Throwing second, right.
Evan Neal is, I don't know.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to call out a night.
Yeah,
See
let's
you next
do
week.
it.
Let's pencil it
Yeah.
in. We'll
See you
talk.
next
All right.
week. Sal,
All right, everyone.
if you can't make it next week, Sal, we understand. And no, we love all you guys for tuning in and writing.
Yeah, thank you.
Fellas,
Feels good to be back, and thank you for
it's been
joining me.
real.
It
Let's
was
do
fun.
it. All right, peace,
All right.
guys.
See you guys.